Hi, and welcome back to the Glory Days. This is episode 13, and time has flown. Being crowned champions, completely out of the blue. What I thought was going to be a 3 to 5 year plan suddenly happened in one season. So I've been thinking a lot about what Glory Days would be to Fiorentina and if we've achieved it, and I don't think that we can say we have. Fiorentina's current financial predicament means that if we left them now, it's unlikely they would be able to maintain a stable Champions League place. So in this episode, we're going to look at our season review and review the current squad and how we're going to have to improve it for the seasons to come, taking into account the current financial difficulties. So if that sounds good, give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more Football Manager content, and let's get on with the video. So here we are for end of season review. We can see that our new rivals, Igor, Gonzalez, Bacall, Odriozola, Nastasic, Torreira and Januzaj all had a good season. Patagna, our 26-year-old striker, did okay too. Krunic had an okay season. Vertezi was simply a backup player in midfield who didn't play much. Rojo, Kamara and Ramos were just young players we wanted to have a closer look at. And Plazzari fortunately didn't play much because Dragowski was so good and didn't get injured. If you look at our transfers out, Benassi had a good season for CSK Moscow when he left. We only sold him for 2.5 million, so his value has gone up too. Kevin Dix, who left before we arrived, had a good season at his new team, Copenhagen. He'd left on a free, and funnily enough we could actually do with the right back right now. Alessandro Sarsante had a good season for Zebras under 23s. Kikorin had a good season for Sochi. The other players, mainly young players which we sent out the door, and players before we arrived. Venuti had quite a poor season after he left, and Montano, who we sold for only 50k, hasn't played a game for his new team yet. If you look at loans out, we can see that we've got some interesting players to come back from loans. Kouame in particular, who had a really good season for Anderlecht, scoring 20 goals in 36 games. He looks like he's going to be a useful addition on his return. Terzic did quite well for Parma, and Montiel had a good season with Siena. His stats look like he could also prove quite useful in his return. Guidotti, again, looks relatively useful. A few of these older loanees we'll have to have a closer look at once they return and see if we actually want to keep them or if we just want to transfer them permanently. I think there's a couple in there potentially needs to go. We can see that it was a season to remember for as we finished first after an expectation of only qualifying for the Euro Cup. Vlahovic was our top scorer, 20 goals. We started the season off extremely brightly, but as the games started to get thick and fast, we got a little bit less consistent towards the end of the season from the midpoint, lost a few more games, but as we know, Lazio lost a lot more games than we did, and that's really the ultimate factor in why we clinched the title. A few big wins in there against Inter, Napoli and Genoa, and also goal of season went to Gonzalez. Goal of season went to Gonzalez with his thunder strike from outside the box. Interestingly, we've managed to raise the reputation of the team from national to continental. I'm not sure if that's taken effect quite yet because a lot of players who we were interested in wouldn't come to Fiorentina, which has set us back in our transfer targets. So hopefully that starts to come into play soon and we can have a bit more luck in that aspect. So far we haven't got any new sponsorship deals. And in terms of our financial predicament, we could do with some of them coming in. Our sponsorship values actually seem quite low when you think of the top teams in Italy. I think they're making over 100 million. And of course, Vlahovic was the highest in shirt sales, followed by Milinkovic, Gonzalez, Bonaventura and Castrovoli. This is quite interesting. It says here how we lined up. So, Dragowski, yep, he always started. He's been great. Much better than I anticipated. Biraghi had a good season at left back. Bacall, he actually alternated quite a lot with Martinez. Milinkovic is a real rock. Anyone with a save, I would love to see him in the Premier League. Try him out, see how he does there. Odriozola, who was on loan from Real Madrid, will be leaving at the end of the season. Had a great season for us. Torreira played that deep line playmaker role, even though I think he's more of a ball-winning midfielder. He managed to do it quite well. Polgar also had a good partnership in midfield. And Krunic, I would have said that Krunic and Castrovoli really rotated. Castrovoli playing what I would have thought would have been more games than Krunic, actually, but it would seem that I'm wrong there, and Krunic had quite a good season. Januzaj, again, I think he was tightly contested with Gonzalez. Gonzalez, I would have said, it wasn't a consistent season, but potentially a better season than Januzaj. And Bonaventura, although he's not fast, and he's more of a central mid, I would have said, he provided so many assists from that role. You can see there 14 assists that he provided. I think that's made me think about how to use those winger positions, because Bonaventura is very much a creative force. He did score 8 goals, but he wasn't as selfish as many of the other players. You can see Januzaj scored 8, but he only assisted 5. He was obviously trying to take on more chances than what Bonaventura would. Bonaventura's 32 now, and we're going to have to replace him at some point. I'm not thinking about selling him this season, although there is interest, purely because I think he can do another job for a season, and he's provided a lot more than any of the rest of the team. And they've got Vlahovic, who is the main man up front. We are fortunate we've managed to tie him down on a 4-year contract, so he is not going to be leaving on the cheap, that's for sure, but there is interest. He does want to go somewhere, and he's simply waiting out. I'm hoping to hold out for about 92 million. That's about the only region I really feel I could sell him. Maybe somewhere in high 80s. So far we've had a bid in around 60 million, which I just don't think is enough. Same can be said of Milenkovic at the back, who's been our rock. There's a lot of interest in him. His contract actually runs out next season, so we have a slight issue. I've tried to renew his contract. He would renew it, but he wants a release clause of only 43 million in there, which is way below his market value. So we're going to have to either play a holdout game to try and build a new contract in there, which he'll accept without that. At the moment it's non-negotiable. Or we're going to have to sell him this summer for maximum profit. So dare I say the word, we could have a bit of a rebuild job after this season. If we look at the accolades, of course I took it for this season and all that we achieved. We can see that fans player of the season was Milenkovic, young player of the season also Milenkovic, signing of the season was Bacau, goal of the season Gonzalez, top scorer was Vlahovic, most assists was Bonaventura, most player of the match awards again Milenkovic, highest average rating again Milenkovic, and most passes completed per 90 minutes was Amrabat, which is a very curious one because Amrabat did not play much at all. Bonaventura had the most assists, most clean sheets was Dragowski. Most player match awards this season was Milenkovic, and Odriozola had the worst discipline. Well, that's a nice award for him. So we finished top. Milan didn't actually manage to get in the top 7 this season. Neil did Roma. And that's where we are in terms of how the season review has gone. So now we'll have a look at the financial situation which Fiorentina find themselves in. We can see here the overall balance is very low. We really don't have much in the way of cash reserves. You can see that actually we made a loss for the whole season. Since the income they received in July, you can see that every month after August was a loss. Our income this month has been improved from our confirmed first place. Our expenditure, however, is still looking higher. We have been lucky enough that the board have raised their wage budget to 1.3 million. It was only 1.2. And that we have a transfer budget up to 50 million now. It was originally only 8.8, but we were receiving a very low figure of 20% of any transfer revenue made. So the sale of Chiesa and everything else going through has taken us up to 50 million, which is not a huge sum. For a really good player, you're probably talking about maybe 1, 2 older players. And that's going to be a key consideration on how we move forward and really how we correct this financial situation before we leave the club. So having a look through Austerity, we can see that we are 4th in sponsorship income. Zebra make 143 million, Inter make 134 million, Milan with 61, then us at 33.5. Followed interestingly by Sassuolo and Atalanta. Roma and Lazio were on down at 20. So this is something we're going to have to try and help build up, which I think we can all do simply by doing well and getting into competitions. You can also see what we're up against in Serie A. You can see clubs like Napoli, Roma have a salary of 85 million, 81 million. We have a salary of 3. See Sampdoria, only with 28. However, Milan have a big salary. Zebra's is huge, 150 million. Inter is huge again at 120 million. So we're definitely going by this underdogs for seasons again to come. The area which seems to be keeping us down at the moment, which we're going to have to clear, is this net debt of 35 million. We don't have much transfer debt at 1.9 million. It's just clearing this would help us massively to start to get them on the right footing. Upgrading their sponsors again would be a major help if we can just keep doing well and get some better ones in the door. We can see that the projection is that this season, 21-22, we were predicted to have a deficit. However, after this season, that will start to build up again, and the transfer budgets will hopefully start to increase. So all in all, the long term looks good for Fiorentina. It looks like it's on the up. But next season, we are going to feel the impact of this deficit, that's for sure. So if we have a look at the squad, we can see that we have Dragowski, and we don't really have any backup to him. At right back, we have Odriozola, and I wouldn't play Milinkovic there. You can see his stats. He'd be a no-nonsense right back, which isn't really what we're looking for. And the fact that Odriozola is leaving means that we have a complete gap in this position. At centre back, Milinkovic is potentially leaving this season, and our main defenders after that would be Martinez, Nastasic and Picao. All 3 start, not quite the rock which we've had before. On the left, we still have Biragi and Igor. This looks a very stable position at the moment. Defensive midfielder, we could see Torreira is going to end his loan, which will weaken us in that position. Amrabat, who came in and did okay, has a bit of growth in him, but he's not quite the same player. He is actually wanted by Norwich and Napoli, and at 25 could be tempted to let him go. Centre midfield, we obviously got Castrovoli, who's did okay this season, and Polgar, who's done well. Bonaventura can play in that position, so could Amrabat. It doesn't look too urgent at the moment for a central midfielder unless we want to improve upon these. At right midfield, we've got Gonzalez and Januzaj can still play there. Their current ability seems to have dropped a little bit from 3.5 star to 3 star. They did quite well for us. We can see Bonaventura on the left is still here. Kouame, who's coming back as well, potentially can play in that role. So it doesn't seem, again, too urgent unless we want to improve on it. Up front, Vlahovic, again a player who could leave, but we have him tied down for a long time. 4 years, I think it's 2026, his contract runs out. So it would take a lot of money for us to be prized of him. He is followed by, again, Kouame can play there and do a respectable job, and Patagna, not really the same level as Vlahovic. However, Kouame has a lot of potential. Patagna is a stable backup. But if he does go, this is a position I feel we could really need to get someone in immediately if we want to do well this season, or we take the position of simple get security in the Champions League places this season, save the money, and really try and come back strong the season after. It would mean that our Champions League games would be tougher for us, and we potentially won't get as far as maybe we could if we had a top striker. But from that overview, it looks like really we need to get the right back situation sorted. See what happens with Milinkovic and Vlahovic. The deep lying playmaker position is also somewhere of question. The rest of the midfield can probably still do a job for this season. They did well so far. And that's where we are. So, in prelude to the new season to come, next episode will hopefully be a bit more concrete about which players we have signed or who we're looking to sign. Our problem so far has been getting players who want to come to Fiorentina, who are of top level quality. And again, that may affect what we can bring in and change those aims for next season, whether we go for youngsters we want to develop throughout the course of the season, or if we're bringing in established players. So if you've enjoyed this episode and you're looking forward to next season and how we build on this, how we take Fiorentina to becoming a secure financial club who are competing for the Champions League regularly and eventually even challenging for the Champions League, then give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for future episodes, and thanks for watching.